there are enough techniques and strategies and everything else that the rich left lying around so that you can use them, so that the middle class can pick up those tools and preserve what they've worked for, what they've earned. I don't see how that's a bad thing. It's like this whole the other thing we're involved in, the employee retention credit. This is the tax credit that it started during the COVID, and it's not, look, it's a little bit, it's if you have a business and you have employees, right? So if you run a business and you have employees, and I keep running into people who've never heard of this, it absolutely drives me around the bend that people are not aware of this program, and yet they're not. They get there are robocalls now. I get them. I get 2 or 3 a day where people are, oh, you're going to get this free government money, blah, blah. And it's like, well, it's not exactly free. I mean, you did have to earn money and you did have to pay employees, and you had to do it during the pandemic. And like any other government program, there's a million rules around it, and you have to do it correctly, like anything else. If you're not doing it correctly, you're just setting yourself up for disaster later on. But the point is that if you do it correctly, there it is. I mean, it works really well. And the point is, see, so here's how it works. Let's say you were running a business back during the pandemic, right? Remember COVID? You remember that? Still around. You're on your 23rd vaccination for it if you're into that kind of thing. Because this one will last at least 6 or 7 weeks. Hey, it's really great. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. Anyway, the point is, during that pandemic, you kept your business going. You kept your people employed, right? You did. And you had to go from whatever you were doing to something else because the government said, you can't do this anymore. You can't do that anymore. Or you got to do it this way, that way, which shut you down anyway. The impact was to shut you down. And it doesn't have to be a complete shutdown, a partial shutdown, so long as it's not insignificant. And that's fine. That's enough. That's what you have to show. But the point is that if you did that, then for each of your employees that you kept going during the COVID, if you didn't get PPP money for those employees for that amount, right? Because you can't double dip. All right. So if you paid somebody, let's say $10,000, right, for a quarter, let's just say you have $40,000 a year, $10,000 a quarter, and you got PPP money for $5,000 of that. Well, you can't claim the PPP on the $5,000, the first 5, but you can on the other $5,000. Plus, you paid them the next quarter too, so you wind up getting the money. Point is that for most small businesses who kept going, I mean, this has been my experience anyway. Most small business kept going. They were shut down fully or partially by governmental orders, and that has nothing to do with the fact that you also had revenue reductions. Now, some people actually had revenue increases, meaning more dollars came through the door during the COVID than before, right? Also, many more dollars went out the door. So like restaurants, for example, good example, because they were shut down, they couldn't serve in person. So what did they do? Well, they went to, the home delivery services. Well, as a consequence of that, because they had to charge extra for the home delivery, they may have made more money. They brought more dollars in the door, but they made less profit because now they got to pay for the delivery. Are you with me? Does that make sense? Okay. So it's like the old idea, we lose a little on every sale, make it up on volume. What? But that's where a lot of these restaurants were stuck, or hotels, or and doctors' offices were the same thing, because a lot of doctors' offices, if they did any surgery during the pandemic, they shut down 2/3 of the elective surgery. Think about it. I mean, if you were having some sort of procedure in 2020, 2021, the doctor's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't handle that because we can't get the operating room. We're gonna have to put that off till later." So now we've got a whole consequences. You got lots of people with cancers and all kinds of other stuff going on that shouldn't have been, because they had to delay because elective surgeries were put off. But the point is that that's all you have to show in order to qualify for this tax credit. And so tax refund's what it is. In other words, you spent the money, whether it's on employees or paid it to the government, you get back the money you paid to the government, and you get back some of the money that you paid to the employees. So it's not like it's not. See, everyone's like, "Oh, it's free money, free money." Well, not really. I mean, if you didn't pay it out, you're not getting, and you don't get all of it back. You get 50% or 70%. You get some of it back, yeah. And is it a good idea? Yeah, especially now, with the inflation and the recession, and apparently now, I don't know if you've noticed this, but in the news, whenever they announce, oh, here's how the economy's doing, 3 months later, 6 months later, they come back and say, oh yeah, we were wrong about that. We underestimated inflation, we overestimated employment, blah blah. And now, according to every other recession in the history of America, we had we've already been through a recession, but nobody ever called it that. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why they don't call it a recession. I couldn't have anything to do with who's in the White House. Now, that could not possibly be, because these governmental agencies are they're straight arrow. You know what I mean? They wouldn't fudge anything for anybody. So that can't be it. I don't know. Any theories, any ideas on why that would be? But fact of the matter is, there is legislation, there is stuff in writing about how all this works. And the unfortunate thing is, you see a lot of businesses that are struggling with the aftermath. You had 2 years where growth was non-existent. A lot of people went out of business, but you've had 2 years where people didn't get what they should have gotten, right? And a consequence of that is that businesses are not as strong. They're not as strong, I guess, prosperous as they should be. Well, we can still reach back into those golden days of yesteryear and pull the money forward, all right, under the government, under the tax program. I mean, that's there. It's available. You just got to follow the rules and do it, and if you don't qualify, we'll tell you that. And if you do qualify, we'll tell you that, and tell you how to, how to get it. So if you have a question about how the whole ERC thing works, give us a shout. This is the Employee Retention Credit.